In the darkest moments of World War II, when American soldiers were dug into foxholes in Bastogne or sweating in the jungles of the Philippines, they dreamed. They didn't dream of medals. They didn't dream of glory. They dreamed of a hamburger. They dreamed of a hot shower. And, more than anything else, they dreamed of a curvy glass bottle filled with cold, sugary, caffeinated black liquid. Coca-Cola. To the GI, it wasn't just a drink. It was a totem. It was a liquid piece of America. There are stories of wounded men asking for a Coke as their dying wish. There are stories of single bottles selling for $4,000 in today's money on the black market in the Pacific. But here is the crazy part. The US military didn't just ship crates of soda to the front lines. That would be too simple. General Dwight D. Eisenhower decided that soda was essential to the war effort. So, he authorized one of the strangest military operations in history. The Army recruited chemists and engineers from Coca-Cola, gave them officer uniforms, called them technical observers, and sent them into the war zone. Their mission: to build 64 complete bottling factories right behind the front lines. While artillery was falling, these men were worrying about carbonation levels and bottle caps. Te werete kokernos. And they conquered the world, one bottle at a time. Hi, I'm Ray. Today on G.I.Stories, we are looking at the ultimate triumph of American logistics. How did a soft drink company become the Second Army of the United States? Grab a cold one. Let's open the file. Chapter 1. The 5 cents promise. The story begins on December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor, the United States enters the war. In Atlanta, Georgia, the CEO of the Coca-Cola Company, Robert Woodruff, makes a bold, patriotic declaration. He issues an order to everyone in his company. We will see that every man in uniform gets a bottle of Coca-Cola for 5 cents, wherever ease, and whatever it costs. The company... 5 cents. That was the standard price in the U.S. Woodruff was promising to eat the cost of shipping, insurance, and loss, just to keep the price stable for the troops. It sounded like a marketing stunt. But Woodruff was a genius. He knew that if he could get millions of young men addicted to Coke during the war, he would have customers for life when they came home. But there was a problem. Sugar. The U.S. government rationed sugar. Candy companies and soda companies had their supplies cut by 50%. Woodruff went to Washington. He lobbied the War Department. He argued that Coca-Cola wasn't a luxury. It was a morale booster. It gave energy. It kept men alert. It kept them happy. The military agreed. Coca-Cola was exempted from sugar rationing if the product was sold to the military. Suddenly, Coke had a monopoly on sweetness. While Pepsi and Dr. Pepper struggled with limits, Coke was flowing freely into the Army canteens. Chapter 2. The Eisenhower Telegram, 1943. Operation Torch. The Allies are fighting in North Africa. General Dwight D. Eisenhower is stressed. The morale of his troops is low. The heat is unbearable. On June 29, 1943, Eisenhower sends a classified telegram to General George Marshall in Washington. This telegram is legendary in the history of logistics. Ike didn't ask for more tanks. He didn't ask for ammo. He requested 3 million bottled Coca-Cola. 2. Complete equipment for bottling, washing, and capping the same quantity twice a month. 3. Preference for shipment should be given to the equipment. Read that again. Preference for shipment. Eisenhower was saying, I need soda factories more than I need tanks right now. He realized that shipping glass bottles filled with liquid across the Atlantic was inefficient. Bottles break. Liquid is heavy. It was smarter to ship the syrup, which is concentrated, and the machines, and then use local water and local bottles to make the drink on site. Washington scrambled. The order was passed to Atlanta. Woodruff mobilized his team. Operation Coca-Cola was a go. Chapter 3. The Coke Kernels. But who was going to build these factories? Soldiers know how to dig foxholes and shoot rifles. They don't know how to calibrate a carbonation mixer or repair a bottling line. So, the Army created a special designation, Technical Observer 2. 148 Coca-Cola employees, engineers, chemists, managers were drafted. They were given officer ranks, usually from lieutenant to colonel. They wore U.S. Army uniforms. They had dog tags. They got paid by the Army. But instead of a unit patch, they wore a patch that said "2." The troops called them the Coca-Cola Colonels. These guys were thrown into the deep end. One day, they were working in a sterile factory in Ohio. The next day, they were dodging sniper fire in Italy, trying to find a water source that wasn't poisoned by dead bodies so they could make soda. Their job was to set up bottling plants anywhere. They built factories in bombed-out churches in France. They built them in Quonset huts in the jungle of New Guinea. They built them on the beaches of Anzio, while German artillery was shelling the harbor. If the army moved forward, the Coke colonels moved with them. Think about the psychological impact of this. You are a German soldier. You have been eating moldy bread and running out of gasoline for months. And then you capture an American position, and you find a refrigerated machine dispensing fresh, carbonated soda. It sends a message. We have so many resources. We can manufacture luxury goods in the middle of a war. It was the ultimate flex. If you enjoy stories about the weird side of military history, smash the like button. It helps us deliver more content. Now, let's see how they solved the jungle problem. Chapter 4. The jungle bottlers in Europe. Finding buildings and water was relatively easy. In the Pacific, it was a nightmare. Island hopping meant landing on jagged coral rocks with no infrastructure. But the troops in the Pacific needed Coke the most. The heat was relentless. The Coke colonels invented portable machines. They created the jungle dispenser, a bright red machine that could mix syrup and carbonated water on the spot. They dragged these machines onto the beaches of the Philippines and Okinawa. But the biggest problem was bottles. Soldiers drank the Coke and threw the bottle away, or smashed Italiano. In the US, you return the bottle. In a war zone, nobody recycles. The colonels ran out of glass. They started begging the troops. Bring back the empties. It didn't work. So they had to improvise. They started using captured enemy bottles. There are photos of American GIS drinking Coca-Cola out of Japanese Seg bottles or German wine bottles, capped with a Coca-Cola cap. As long as the black liquid was inside, nobody cared about the container. Chapter 5. The Battle of the Brands while Coke was conquering the world. What was Pepsi doing? Pepsi was struggling. Because they hadn't made the same deal with the War Department, they were starved of sugar. More importantly, they were starved of access. By the end of the war, 5 billion bottles of Coke had been consumed by military personnel. But it wasn't just Americans. The Coke colonels gave Coke to the locals. French, Italians, Filipinos, Polynesians. For many of these people, it was their first taste of American culture. And it was addictive. When the war ended and the troops went home, the factories stayed. The 64 military bottling plants were converted into civilian franchises. This is the secret reason why Coca-Cola became a global empire. The U.S. Army paid for their global expansion infrastructure. Pepsi spent the next 40 years trying to catch up. Chapter 6. The legend of the $4,000 bottle. The demand was always higher than the supply. This led to a thriving black market in the Solomon Islands. Before the factories were set up, a single bottle of Coke sent from home could sell for $5 to $30. Adjusted for inflation, that's hundreds of dollars. There is a famous story from Italy. A soldier won a bottle of Coke in a poker game. He decided he wouldn't drink it. He would auction it off to raise money for the children of a dead friend. He walked through the battalion, holding the bottle like a holy relic. Soldiers were bidding half their monthly pay. The bottle eventually sold for $4,000 in today's value. The winner shared it with his squad. They used thimbles to measure out exactly one sip for each man. One veteran wrote, "It was the most delicious thing I ever tasted. It tasted like America. It tasted like I was going to survive." Chapter 7. The tragedy of Fanta. There is one dark footnote to this story. Before the war, Coca-Cola had huge operations in Nazi Germany. When the war started, the German branch was cut off from the secret syrup supply from Atlanta. The German manager, Max Keith, didn't want to shut down the factories. He was loyal to the company. So, He invented a new drink using the leftovers of the German food industry apple fiber, cheese byproducts, and whatever fruit he could find. He called it Fanta. So yes, while American GIs were drinking Coke, German soldiers were drinking Fanta. Both profits eventually went back to the same place after the war. War is a strange business. Conclusion today, Coca-Cola is everywhere, but its dominance was forged in the fire of World War II. The Coke kernels returned home as heroes of industry. They proved that you can build a supply chain through hell and high water. It's easy to be cynical about corporate branding, but for the men in the foxholes of 1944, that bottle wasn't a brand. It was a lifeline. It was a reminder that back home, the drugstores were open, the girls were pretty, and life was sweet, and that was worth fighting for. What's your go-to? Comfort food or drink? If you were stuck in a trench for a year, what would you pay $1,000 to taste? Let me know in the comments. Next video, we are looking at the final days of the war. We're going to tell the story of the looting of the Eagle's Nest, how the band of brothers found Hitler's private wine cellar, and through the biggest party of the century. Subscribe to G.I.Stories. Stay thirsty.